welcome back to the Ben Motorcycle Adventures podcast, your hub for everything off-road, dual sport, and adventure motorcycle. My name is John. I will be your host. Episode number 10. Welcome back, Ben Motorcycle Adventures podcast, and right out of the gate, I'm hoping that you had a safe and successful, if you will, Christmas and Christmas Eve. I know it can be crazy out there at times, but again, hopefully you picked up a few things you wanted for Christmas. Hopefully you got to connect with some friends and family, and here's our gift to you, fresh podcast, December 26th, 2018. Thank you for joining us, and I'm very stoked. Couldn't be happier to be talking to the guy that you guys are going to listen to tonight. Blake from SkyPixelMedia.com and SkyPixel Media on YouTube joins the show. He's a professional videographer, and he calls into the show from Baja. Going to hear a little bit of background noise, but actually, in my opinion, it's quite pleasant. I decided not to try and edit that out because, truth be told, it kind of made me wish that I was down there. A couple of years ago, I had the luxury of spending the time around the holidays in Kona on the Big Island, and there's no better way to fend off winter than hanging out on the beach and having a few drinks and just enjoying life. But Blake's down there working, and he took some time out of his day to give us a call, so we're very appreciative. And again, he's a professional videographer, very well traveled, so it's really cool to hear some of his stories. And he's one of those entrepreneurs that you read about. He's managed to marry that passion for videography with action and adventure, and he's out on the road living his dreams. So again, very cool to hear what Blake's been up to and really hear some of his perspectives about life. Everything from life to camera equipment and his favorite places to ride. So I think you guys will really enjoy this podcast. And without further ado, let's talk to Blake. Thanks for joining us. All right, guys, welcome back. Another episode of the Ben Motorcycle Adventures podcast. Today, we're joined by Blake. That is at Cineblake on Instagram, CINEBLAKE. Blake, thanks for joining us. And you're in, is it Baja today or Cabo?
Yeah, down here in Baja California Sur in Cabo. Just drove the RV down. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. And I got to admit, a little bit envious. It's about 30 degrees where I live today. So how are things going down there?
Yeah, it's definitely 80 degrees and blue skies for sure. So no complaints here, and just got a bunch of riding in this week. So couldn't have been any better, actually. And home for me is Colorado, so I'm in the same boat as you. I'm enjoying this warm weather and not thinking about snow right now.
Killer. So, Blake, I got to admit, came across your Instagram profile some months ago. We had some chats about you possibly coming to ride in Bend at some time, and definitely take you up on that offer if you're ever over this way. But, it looks like, man, you're living the dream. You're out there filming and shooting, riding in epic places. So why don't you tell our listeners what it is you do and what you've been up to lately?
Yeah, so I'm a professional videographer. I shoot all kinds of different projects, whether it's motorsports stuff to luxury real estate to product placement or branding type content. And recently, as of September, my fiance and I have taken to the road full time in our RV. We've got 2 dirt bikes on the back and all the camera gear with us, and our plans are to travel down here to Cabo, which we've hit that mark, and then ultimately up to Alaska come summer. So we'll definitely be driving right past your area, and you'll be the guy I hit up when we're wanting to ride. Right
on. Hey, what's it like living out of an RV on the road?
It's actually been awesome. We transitioned super well. We've been planning for about 10 months, and so we had our minds really wrapped around it, but the challenges were just working together in small spaces and things like that you'd kind of expect. But ultimately, we've adapted really well. And I traveled so much for work anyway that it wasn't as much of a transition as I thought. And it's actually great because now we have everything we need with us. So it was great to be able to bring the bikes and the camera gear to be able to work a little bit and then do a little bit of play along the way.
So are you working on a project as we speak right now down there?
We just wrapped up with a real estate property here in Cabo a few days ago and then had some family out for the week. So right now we're just post shooting and just doing a bunch of editing. We've been kind of posted up at a Starbucks for a few days now and just editing as much as we can and trying to wrap things up before we head up to San Diego in the next few weeks, kind of riding as long as we go.
And that was going to be one of my questions. Obviously, you shoot the video. Do you do much for photo, and then you're also editing your content?
Yeah, so I am strictly video in terms of the commercial sense. I don't market myself as a photographer, but I do like to dabble, and I'm looking to get some different camera setups here down the road. But strictly do video, shooting on the Red, and I do edit a lot of the projects. Most of the time, people don't have an editor, and they don't know what to do with raw content. So, I'm happy to edit for people. It takes a lot of time, and I love seeing the project come together. Takes a lot of hours, but I do enjoy a good day outside shooting, and that's why I love doing what I'm able to call work, just being outside and interacting. So it's a trade-off for sure, but sure beats the cubicle I did before all this. So
yeah,
no complaints.
It's tough to grind away at that 9 to 5, and that's cool that you provide the editing too. Like you said, a lot of people, you get some footage, you're not really sure how to handle it or how to produce a captivating video. So that's cool that you're a one-stop shop essentially for productions for people. Clicking through your Instagram profile, I see SkyPixel Media. Now, is that a company that you work for, or is that your particular business? Or
yeah, so that's our media production house. It's just my fiance and I, and I've had a few people I contract in for bigger projects. But that's really the essential unit of our one-stop shop right there. We started out doing aerial videography back when it was really starting to get big in 2013, 2014, and then kind of pivoted from there to do whole production work with sound design and content creation all the way around, and then adding in aerial shots as we go. So that's us. We post our commercial content there, and that's our operation.
Okay, guys, so make sure you check out SkyPixelMedia.com, and also there on YouTube, SkyPixel Media. Just a heads up. Blake, I got a question for you. Obviously, you're well-traveled. How has that changed your life? How has that kind of helped shape you interacting with other cultures and kind of moving around the map?
Yeah, so what all kind of started for me was when I did a study abroad trip down in Guatemala in 2012 and with school, and it was totally out of left field. I had never thought about going down there, but I did want to study the language, and just getting an opportunity to be in a different environment and it pushed me out of my boundaries and made me appreciate the little things in life that maybe we take for granted back stateside, just simple things. And so traveling as much as I had really helps me appreciate where I am at any given moment, because life is short and it goes quick, and vacations go quick. So I'm trying to blur the line as much as I can between work and play, and just appreciate wherever we are and interact with people. And that's probably the best thing that I've really appreciated from this whole trip and doing the traveling I do, is just getting to meet people and learning about their story, and just kind of, if you just visit places for a couple of days, you don't really get to really meet people and understand what it's all about. And so that's why we're excited specifically about the road trip here, is we're just working as we go, and wherever we're at, we're going to call home and kind of enjoy where we're at.
Yeah, that's interesting. Getting to spend, an extended period of time in any one place, you kind of get a feel for it and get to embrace the culture a little bit, and maybe in some instances, like you said, really appreciate, what you really have. So that's awesome.
Yeah. That's what we realized when we loaded everything up into the camper. We realized we have so many material things that we don't need. And I'm not a minimalist or a van life or anything like that. I've always, not really thought about doing that. But when you get down to it, there's just so little that you need to actually make you happy. So we've just enjoyed being around people and experiencing things rather than having things. And that's kind of the biggest takeaway from all this that we're really stoked to have, for sure.
Right on. Good advice for all of us. Hey, you piqued my interest when you started talking about drones. I know you operate and shoot with commercial drones. I've got a Mavic 2 Pro. That's about as advanced as I get. But how is that kind of helped shape your career, really, or are things changing? Are we going to see more and more drone footage moving forward?
Yeah, definitely. It's already kind of gotten a little saturated in terms of the accessibility to the technology, which is totally fine, because I don't really see the benefit of a barrier to entry for any of this. I think everybody should be able to get something for a few grand if they're really into it and want to take it places. And so, yeah, I've had anything from an octocopter that was ridiculously huge to just get a shot now that your Mavic Pro could easily crush. And so it's just changed really rapidly, and I think it's going to continue to go that way. And what I've noticed already in the content creation space is that the drone is a part of what you shoot in terms of the whole production, but it can't be the whole thing. And I do see that videos are oversaturated with 4 and 5, 6, 7, 8 drone shots in a row. And I'm just nitpicking because it's like my industry, but I think there's a value add in having it, but it gets overused. The wide angle drone shot gets overused, but I think it's a really helpful tool to set the tone, and especially being able to bring it out in more remote areas. Like I have a Mavic 2 Zoom as well, and I love being able to bring that out riding, and I just got it, so very excited to have something of that format that can pack the punch that it does.
So when you bring something out, like a common drone like the Mavic Pro 2 or the Zoom, how are you protecting that thing when you ride?
So I have a protective case that's just the Chinese special on Amazon, but
okay.
It's just a hard-sided case, and I guess I err on the side of riding cautiously on the days that I film. For me, it's typically a film day is a film day and a ride day is a ride day, and that's kind of blending more and more because when I do my commercial work, I'm bringing the Red and the Inspire 2, and there's zero protection for my backpack with the Inspire 2. So as I start to use the Mavic 2 Zoom more, I have the small case that fits inside my Camelback. Just riding a little smarter and taking it a bit easier, and then trying to lead to remove dust from the equation and not be in the back the whole day is kind of the recipe for me right now. And truly, I just got the thing about a month and a half ago, so I haven't done as much with it riding-wise as I planned, but I have lots of big plans for it because it's just so portable. It opens up a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, and I asked that question because, excuse me, I keep seeing a lot of Facebook posts, for instance, people talking about drones and motorcycle groups and communities. And speaking from experience, I'm pretty sure riding around with my original Mavic, took a little bit of a toll on the gimbal, which ultimately didn't work out for me. But it'd be good for people to know, you can ride with these things, but you just have to exercise a little bit of caution.
Yeah, and I think the gimbal brace piece that comes with the Mavic 2 lineup is really great to have that support in there, because on a similar note, I used to ride a lot with a GoPro 5 on a Karma grip, chesty mounted to get stabilized like standing content on the bike. And whenever that gimbal wasn't powered on, it was bouncing around, and it actually started loosening screws and tearing up the connection on the motor. So yeah, you just have to pick your ride days where you're going to ride hard, a little bit more separate from the filming days, or just taking it a bit easier, I guess, when you want to bring that thing out there.
Okay. And you brought up GoPros. Do you utilize those much when you're capturing footage, or you just don't have the video quality that you want?
In years past, I did a lot of action sports stuff in terms of road racing and cars, and we would use them a lot, suction cupping them and stuff like that. And I think there's still a role for that with roll cages and clamp mounts and stuff like that. But in terms of anything handheld for my commercial work, I don't utilize them. I think the wide angle lens is just hard to get something really compelling, and I'm kind of spoiled with my other camera. But I think for POV, in terms of like person shooting, if you have it chest mounted or head mounted, I still think it's a really cool angle, especially the Hero 7. I haven't played with it yet, but because of the stabilization, it's pretty promising to not even need a gimbal and be able to get smooth content while riding. So I guess that I would still use it to intermix in with something, but it would never be my number one choice for like a whole video.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Hypothetically speaking, if you're going out on a ride, you want to capture a little bit of footage, but you can only take one piece of equipment, what would that be?
Anymore, it's going to be a toss-up between the Mavic 2, just because it's so small and nice and I'm excited to work with it, or just a really great point and shoot with a telephoto lens. I think that getting good telephoto shots of bikes while riding too is something that's not done a ton right now. Like the guys who do it, Wolf Enduro and Luke Takahashi and those guys, like they're shooting on telephoto lenses and they're getting great shots with blurred backgrounds, but not a lot of people are doing that. And I think it just stands out. And I try not to overthink the content I do for fun, because I get in the nitty gritty and want to edit everything, and then I just don't have time. So that's just me. But I think like a GX50 would be great. It's a Panasonic sub $400 point and shoot with a telephoto lens would be my go-to. That's probably what I'm going to move to for just still photos and just getting really great telephoto shots.
Okay. Question. You've been, again, you're well traveled. You've ridden all over the place. What's the best location you've ridden in? And you don't have to give away the nitty gritty details, but what's your favorite spot?
That's a tough one, but I would say it's either a toss up between some of the single track sections that I've scouted out down in southern Colorado, near Aspen and near Telluride and Crested Butte. I mean, guys know about it, but that's definitely some of my favorite terrain, being from Colorado. And we planned a 7-day, 750-mile ride down to Rico, Colorado, which is just south of Telluride. And I would say some of the best high altitude single track is up there. And usually at high altitude, it's all Jeep road in Colorado, so it's pretty cool to have something 16 inches wide or whatever, 18 inches wide, up at 12,000 feet. So that's definitely a really cool area. And then also the stuff I've started to check out in Idaho has been really promising, near Gold Creek Lodge, featured in the Moto 8 movie. Some of the terrain up there is just amazing, and there's just half as many people. So I'm excited to go ride over there a bit more too. And then in terms of dual sport stuff, I really had a blast in Guatemala. I love the country, and being able to come back and ride there after living there for a half a year and looking at people riding all day and never getting to go myself, it made me appreciate just sitting back on the saddle and doing more enjoying of the landscape and easier riding, but just going through little villages and volcanic beaches and, just cool stuff like that you just never see, stateside, or you don't really even see if you're in a car.
Sure. So you talked a little bit about, shooting some different action sports and things like that. Who else have you worked with along the way? I saw something for Red Bull on your Instagram, for instance.
Yeah, so I shot a project for Red Bull. It was a surf competition in New Jersey, so that was really cool. Open water swim with surfers in New Jersey. And then I've done stuff with Lectron carburetors on the moto side. I'm going to do another project with them. I'm in the process of editing that. And then Nitromoose, did a few projects with them and got another one in the works for the tubeless system and the Nitromoose system. And then also Senna is one of my biggest clients, actually. I really love working with them. And the cool thing about working with them is it really all stemmed out of just being an enthusiast. And I guess that's kind of how most of my work came about. But I found out about the radios years ago and just got on Instagram and started bugging them and like looking at all the content out there and bought a pair and just like it totally changed my riding. And now we don't ride with anything else. We love being able to talk and enjoy the ride together and kind of shoot the shit sometimes too. And so I bugged them enough on Instagram that they started looking at my other content and gave me a shot at shooting with them a few years ago, and just kind of ran with that. And we've done probably 6 projects together and got another one in the works on the Harley side of the world, hopefully. So they're another one on the motorsports side. And then just done some stuff for Arctic Cat on the side-by-side side of things and some industry stuff there. So kind of across the board and a little bit with trophy trucks, but still trying to work my way into that. It's a little more elite, I guess. People, they don't want a new guy in the field, so I'm trying to hustle. But yeah, those are some of the projects I like to focus on rather than, some of the real estate stuff's great, but it's just not where my heart is. So I love doing the moto projects whenever I can.
Right on. And for those of us who don't know, Senna offers Bluetooth headsets for motorcycle riders like us. So like Blake said, you have the opportunity to communicate with who you're riding, stay in touch. I think it adds another element of safety, probably a little bit of fun and banter back and forth, but that's a good option too. You get out on these rides with a group of people. Has it changed how you ride at all, Blake?
Yeah, definitely safety is the number one thing that we've noticed, and that's just nuts and bolts. But down here, we rode all week here in Baja near Cabo, and just being able to alert people of an obstacle up ahead. I mean, we've had so many close calls that are now near misses that we can attribute to being able to communicate to the guy behind you that it's easily proven itself in that aspect alone. And so we'll always continue to ride with them. And then it makes longer rides more social. I feel like you miss out on what you want to talk about with people and enjoying the area around you because you forget about what you want to tell somebody or mention. Oh, that was an amazing view, or it was really cool riding through that village and I got a high five from the little kid or whatever. And so it just makes every ride so much more memorable. And we just we can cover more terrain too. We can let people know where we're turning and what directions we're going on. And so you combine safety, a little bit more social aspect, and then speed and agility. And we love riding with them. And so it's really cool to be able to call them a client too, because it's something I can get behind, and I try to work harder. I work even harder on projects that I really love. It just makes it so much easier for the editing to come together when I'm really passionate about it.
Sure, it's something that you believe in and something that you use. It's pretty easy sell. Writing in foreign countries, have you ran across anything weird? Had any close calls, stuff like that? I mean, we all hear about South America, Mexico, could bump into trouble. Have you had any issues down there?
We've had just a few, like, coming around the corner and guys are not in their lane and stuff like that. But honestly, I think we've been either pretty lucky or just pretty mindful. I've not wrecked or anything. I've not gotten hurt, and no one I've ridden with has gotten hurt. And it's not as bad as you think, in the sense that when you get down to these smaller towns and villages and dirt roads and stuff, the speeds are lower from the other cars. And so they're kind of, for a number of reasons, they try to save fuel to go slower, and their cars aren't really in great shape, so they just go slow. And they're also more defensive. So people down here in Latin America in general are expecting kind of the chaos and know that people weave in and out and stuff like that. So as a rider who's kind of new to this, ultimately, I haven't done a lot of road riding back home. I feel like people know I'm there on the road more so than when I'm stateside. I think people are a bit more on autopilot back home. So I'm more likely to get on the bike and go for a ride on a dirt road or a county road or whatever you want to call it down here in Mexico or Guatemala than I would jump on a 50 mile an hour county road back home. So maybe I have a skewed opinion, but that's kind of my experience so far. Is it's not quite that bad. It's really, really nice once you get outside of the major cities.
They're probably not driving around with their cell phone in their hand either, updating Facebook, right?
Exactly. They're not live streaming at the same time, so that's a huge plus.
Snapchatting. Well, right on, Blake. Off the top of my head, I don't really have any more questions for you. What do you want to add? What do you want to share with us? Where do you want us to go check you out?
So I have my Instagram page at Cineblake. That's kind of where I just post moto content and some behind the scenes stuff on shooting the projects that I'm shooting and goofy stuff. And then my business page is at SkyPixelMedia.com. I need to update that more regularly, but that's where you can go see some of the clients I've worked with and some of the projects I've worked on in the past. And then our travel page, my fiance and I, it's This Is Nomadic, at This Is Nomadic on Instagram. And we're just getting it started, but we're trying to post trials and tribulations of being on the road and working and filming as we go and kind of riding. So you can find all kinds of funny stuff like car breakdowns to border problems to, all kinds of funny things on there. So that's where you can kind of see what we're up to on the day to day.
All right, Blake, I really thank you for donating your time, taking some time out while you're down there and enjoying Baja. Really appreciate it. And you know what? Maybe we'll hook up in 2019 up here too.
Yeah, I definitely plan on bumping into you guys, and that'll probably be around March or April. So pretty excited to check out your neck of the woods. I've been told multiple times that Bend is a fantastic place to ride. So,
yeah, I think if you love to shoot, man, it's tough to find a better spot. So I think we can get you somewhere where you can capture some cool footage. So,
yeah, it would definitely be cool to feature you guys a little bit. So we'll definitely be in touch on that, no doubt.
All right, man. Again, appreciate your time, and again, enjoy that nice warm weather down there. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hey, Blake, one last time, thank you for coming on the podcast. Really, a very full circle and well-rounded conversation. We had discussed life a little bit, work a little bit, motorcycle adventure and travel. I think everybody can take something away from this podcast. If nothing else, like Blake says, life's short. Your time is limited. Get out there and try to blur those lines between working and having a good time. I think that is a good bit of medicine for all of us. SkyPixelMedia.com if you want to check out Blake's website and see what he's been up to. He's also on YouTube, SkyPixel Media, and Instagram at SkyPixel Media. His personal account at Cineblake, and his travel account, if you will, This Is Nomadic on Instagram at This Is Nomadic. So again, Blake, hopefully we get a hookup this spring in Central Oregon, and bottom line, it'll just be epic. I think you'll have a good time. So look me up when you make it this way. Speaking of riding in Central Oregon, or actually all over the West Coast, BendMotorcycleAdventures.com, off-road, dual sport, adventure motorcycle. I've got tours for everything. Off-road tours in Oregon, dual sport and adventure motorcycle tours all over the West Coast, predominantly on backcountry discovery routes. And I'm also cooking up that big Continental Divide ride, 2,500 miles, Mexico to Canada, 2 weeks long, pretty much the ultimate adventure ride in the lower 48 at least. So, stay tuned for some updates on that. And again, I've got to plug my ride, the one that I worked on and developed for, about a year and a half. It's called the Ring of Fire, 7 days, dual sport around the volcanic Cascades with me, single track, 2-track, dirt roads, epic sites, national parks, you name it. I threw it all in there. It's called the Ring of Fire. You should check it out. And you know what? Put it for the vacation. Talk to your boss, whatever. You're not going to be disappointed. The Ring of Fire. Check it out. Real quick, if you're listening on iTunes, if you're listening on Google Play Music, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, however you tune into the Ben Motorcycle Adventures podcast, please make sure you leave us a review. Please make sure that you click subscribe so you get the most recent episodes. And again, I know I say it a lot. I say it a ton, but thank you for the positive feedback. Not a day goes by I don't get 2 or 3 emails. I don't get Instagram DMs, people saying, hey, just picked up the podcast. Love to hear it. Keep up the good work. So that really keeps me going, but it helps if you guys provide reviews and ratings and subscribe. And when you subscribe, when I put new podcasts out or bonus podcasts out, you'll be notified immediately. But all that being said, thank you for the support. And we're going to continue to look to grow this podcast as much as we can and bring on great guests like we've had and great guests like Blake here, for instance. The next episode of our podcast, we'll be talking to another Blake. This particular Blake works for a company called Lone Rider, and if you're not familiar with Lone Rider, you need to go to their website, lonerider-motorcycle.com, and check them out. They have an amazing line of tents for motorcycle adventure, or you could use them for backpacking or car camping or whatever, but they have these amazing tents. They've got a new tent called the ADV tent. They also make moto bags or soft luggage for adventure bikes and a slew of other things. Killer episode. This is one that you do not want to miss. Blake goes into pretty great detail about Lone Rider and the process, the rigorous testing, the attention to detail on this product. So if you're going to buy a motorcycle adventure tent, a moto bag, or anything like that, please go to their website first and check these guys out. I guarantee you won't be disappointed with the quality of the product. Again, that particular podcast is coming out December 30th. We're going to follow that up with our friend Drew, who has ridden the New Mexico, Arizona, and Colorado backcountry discovery routes. So he's going to give us some intel on that. And then I've got a slew of guests lined up after that. Eric Kudla from the AMA Western Hare Scrambles, Justin from the OMRA, that is the Oregon Motorcycle Riders Association. We'll talk about 2018. We'll talk about 2019. And then I think after the podcast, if there's any new racers out there that are thinking about joining the OMRA and competing in the series, for the most part, I can tell you about every single race and what to expect and things like that. So that'll be a great podcast. I've got a bunch of people from Instagram lined up. Phoenix Handlebars, motorcycle industry jobs. I know you guys are out there. We've already talked about it. Let's get that stuff set up. And other people from Instagram too. I literally have a list of probably 20 people lined up to interview, and I'm going to try to knock them all out here in the next couple of weeks. So again, guys, thanks for listening to the podcast. Thank you for subscribing. And you know what? Until December 30th, you guys, maybe some of you aren't working or something. Maybe you've got the whole week off. Enjoy your time. Get some riding in. Spend some time with your family, whatever the case may be. Or just keep grinding away at work until New Year's where you can let it all hang out. We'll talk to you on the 30th. Thanks for joining us again.